The Buddha Sakyamuni Gautama can be introduced as one of the greatest religious leaders born to this world in the 6th century BCE, who enlightened himself with the realization of the Four Noble Truths, or Chaturarya Satya. He gifted mankind with a philosophy that guided the path of understanding suffering, the cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path to end suffering, to be rid of the ever-recurring cycle of births and deaths, and to attain Nibbana. 260 years after the passing away of the Buddha, the Indian Emperor Ashoka embraced Buddhism and was instrumental in organizing the Third Buddhist Council in the city of Pataliputra, where a great deal of missions were sent to spread Buddhism. Accordingly, religious missionaries were dispatched not only within the territories in India, but also into neighboring countries. Emperor Ashoka sent his son Arahant Mahinda as the emissary with a view to establishing Buddhism in Sri Lanka during the reign of King Devanampiyatissa, 250 to 210 BCE, who ruled the kingdom of Anuradhapura at that time. The king and his retinue converted to Buddhism at Mihintale, having listened to Arahant Mahinda, who was accompanied by 6 companions. Before the introduction of Buddhism in Sri Lanka by Arahant Mahinda, there was no generally accepted religion among the inhabitants, but it was overshadowed by various religious beliefs and superstitions. In these circumstances, the first Buddhist missionaries were able to inculcate the basics of Buddhism together with its spiritual and temporal ideology among its inhabitants. This action laid the foundation to the growth of a long-standing and enduring civilization in this island. Thus, Mihintale, to the north of Anuradhapura, became the cradle of Buddhist civilization. Legend has it that Sri Lankan soil was sanctified by the Buddha, placing his sacred foot on 3 visits prior to the introduction of Buddhism. At all 3 visits, the Buddha stayed in 16 sacred places commonly referred to as Solasmasthana, venerated by an innumerable number of Buddhist devotees in Sri Lanka. The 68 caves at Mihintale were offered to the first Buddhist missionaries that arrived in Sri Lanka, and also to the first Sinhalese monks who were ordained. This was an offering to the Sangha by King Devanampiyatissa. This was the first Buddhist monastery in Sri Lanka. When Buddhism was established in the island, King Devanampiyatissa erected the first stupa called Tuparame, enshrining the right collarbone of the Buddha for veneration by pilgrims. Teri Sangamitta, the sister of Venerable Mahinda, was invited to Sri Lanka to establish the Bhikkhuni Sasana. On her arrival, she brought along one of the right saplings of the Sri Mahabodhi tree in India, under which Siddhartha Gautama attained enlightenment. The sapling was planted at Mahameghavana in the city of Anuradhapura. The Jayashree Mahabodhi in Anuradhapura has existed for over 2,200 years, being the oldest living tree with an unbroken recorded history in the world. It is still venerated by millions of Buddhists and other devotees. With the establishment of Buddhism in the island, safeguarding its doctrine and discipline, a lineage of monks became necessary. This objective was achieved by establishing the first fraternity in Anuradhapura called the Mahavihara by King Devanampiyatissa. Over the ages, it became the center of the Theravada tradition. The Venerable Buddha Kosha, who was of Indian origin, residing in the Mahavihara in the 5th century AD, made arrangements to translate all Sinhala Atthakatha or commentaries into Pali. This action uplifted Buddhist studies. He also wrote a Buddhist treatise called Visuddhimagga, condensing the Buddhist doctrine in relation to the path of achieving Buddhist liberation. This work is considered a landmark in the history of Buddhism in Sri Lanka. The tradition has it that the Mahavihara then was an institute comparable to a modern university, where a large number of local and foreign monks were learning and conducting research. King Dutugamanu ascended the throne at Anuradhapura in the 2nd century BC. He constructed the Ruwanvelisaya or the Ratnamali Stupa, enshrining the highest number of sacred relics of the Buddha in the world. This magnificent edifice exhibits the excellence of the skills of construction and engineering of the Sinhalese. Due to the stature and size of this edifice, it is also called the Mahastupa or Great Stupa. During the 1st century BC, King Walagamba constructed another magnificent Buddhist complex in Anuradhapura called the Abhayagiri Vihara. This was made with another fraternity of monks who even went beyond the Theravada tradition and followed the Mahayana tradition, where a considerable number of local and foreign monks studied. The world-famous Samadhi Buddha statue in Mahamevna Royal Park in Anuradhapura is considered a unique creation depicting the Buddha's enlightenment after deep meditation. Under the patronage of King Walagamba in the 1st century BC, the verbal tradition of keeping the Tripitaka drew to an end, and for the first time it was recorded on palm leaves at Aluvihara in Matale, with the expectation that the Buddhist doctrine would be preserved for posterity. King Mahasen ascended to the throne in Anuradhapura in the 3rd century AD and constructed the Jetavana Vihara. The Jetavana Stupa is the tallest and the largest stupa in Anuradhapura. The Atamasthana, or 8 sacred places, are the main sites in the sacred city of Anuradhapura, namely Tuparame, Sri Mahabodhya, Ruwanvelisaya, Lohaprasada, or the Brazen Palace, Mirisavatya, Abhayagiriya, Lankarame, and Jetavanarame. In the 4th century AD, Prince Danta and Princess Hemamala from the state of Kalinga in India brought the left tooth relic of the Buddha to Sri Lanka. Subsequently, it became the symbol of royalty among the Sinhalese lineage of kings, and it was kept at various capitals in Lanka. And the tooth relic now resides in Kandy, the last kingdom. It is venerated by many devotees to date. The Sri Lankan chronicles witness that Theravada Buddhism was spread over to Southeast Asia, including Thailand, Myanmar, and Cambodia, with Sri Lanka as the center between the 11th and 12th centuries. Since the advent of Buddhism during the Anuradhapura period, almost all kings and rulers of the Sinhalese dynasty, along with the monks and the Buddhist leaders, safeguarded Buddhism by successfully suppressing various foreign invasions for over 2,300 years. They all made valuable contributions for the well-being of Buddhism by constructing Buddhist temples and landmarks and brought Sri Lanka to be in the pivotal position among other Buddhist lands. The Buddhist philosophy that was gifted to the world by Gautama Buddha subsequently divided into several denominations, including Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana, and Zen. Later, these schools of Buddhism were spread across the world, but each took different forms depending on the country's cultural, environmental, and social aspects, giving a unique insight to the religion but leaving the crux of the Buddha's teachings intact. Buddhism is now being practiced in many religious institutions across the world, led by monks. By this initiation, a large congregation now observes Buddhism's principles and its philosophy. It is also taught in many research institutions, generating many discourses. They are all directed toward the ultimate goal of achieving the Four Noble Truths and toward attaining Nibbana or eternal bliss. This creates the path to the modern spiritual development of people. Buddhism provides the best solution to various confrontations and unrest that exist within nations and groups in the modern world. It is a religion and simultaneously a philosophy that advocates the best solutions for social justice in general and world peace in particular. The responsibility to achieve the goal of such a great religion is given out to the monks who have sacrificed their lives to inculcate the values and teachings of the Buddha for the betterment of people. It is with their leadership that people are taught the reality and truth of life until they understand that they need to let go of all attachments. That spiritual happiness and freedom is felt from within is the eternal bliss of emancipation.
Sabba papassa akuranam kusalassa upasampada sacitta panyodapanam etam buddhana sasanam